There we go. Fit perfectly.
That'll be the intro there. Haha, fit perfectly.
We built this client's table using wood that our supplier couldn't sell to any of their other customers, so they sold it to us. We got this order from Gobi Walnut because they were moving locations and they had a lot of old slabs that no one else had purchased after years of having them on their website. So they made the offer to us, of course, to purchase them as a whole bulk order and see if we could turn them into some tables. The reason that these slabs were less appealing to most of their customers is because they required a lot of extra work. The particular slab that we're using for this client's table had a large decayed section right in the middle of the piece, and also a lot of what we call shake, which is internal cracking, usually going with the growth rings of the slab. What all of this has resulted in is a piece of wood that would not be ideal if we were to just finish it as is, and it's going to take that extra work to turn it into something beautiful. Obviously, as you guys know, we're quite well known for our use of epoxy, so this is a perfect candidate for us, and we really think we can turn this ugly looking slab into something quite extraordinary.
Maybe back up a little bit. Right there.
And this is from Gobi.
Oh, okay.
Really nice wood.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever... Have we done many Gobi slabs before?
Not well, you've been here, I don't
think I've ever done one.
No. So this slab actually comes from a different supplier than we usually get our wood from. This came from Gobi Walnut. And if we have any long-time subscribers, I think way back in like 2018 or something, we did a video at Gobi Walnut. So it's not the first time that we've used their wood before. And we're all really excited for this piece. Even though it looks kind of dirty right now, if you look closely at this slab, there's a lot of signs that this is probably going to be some pretty good wood under here. So all of this kind of ripple and texture you're seeing on the surface, that should show up in the finished grain. And the layout that the client has chosen is really nice too, because we're essentially just squaring this slab as it is and leaving it mostly intact. And then we will fill in this big void here, but it should be a really, really nice table when it's done.
So like I mentioned, this is a slab of Oregon black walnut, which looks quite a bit different than the Canadian black walnut that you've seen us work with before. And it tends to look a lot closer to Clara walnut in terms of its color and appearance. Right now, as you can tell, this slab doesn't look like very much at all. It's collected a lot of dirt and dust, so that's why we've got this grayish, blackish looking surface.
This isn't actually all that long though. I think it's only 10 feet.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of cutoffs on there.
Yeah. Garrett.
No, not even that. I have so many.
Figured walnut. You have Oregon walnut though? This is different. This is Oregon black walnut.
What is sales name?
What did the...
Oh, no, that whole wing is getting cut off. That's sad.
Yeah, it is.
Maybe.
So Garrett did end up buying a piece from this slab after all. He's our go-to buyer for any offcuts that we want to get rid of. That's why it's great to hire woodworkers to work in your wood shop.
I wouldn't be cutting, but eventually it'll get cut off.
Yeah, I guess we could go like another half an inch or an inch.
Like if you want, when I just cut it on the saw, I can just set the saw over a marker or two.
Yeah, sure, just do that.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it does burn.
But it draws so tight. Yeah, like this is kind of exactly where I was hoping it was going to be.
Yeah, perfect. That's pretty well the render. Yeah, look at the end grade even, eh?
I think we need more Oregon black walnut.
As you can see, as soon as Garrett cut that end off, there's some incredible color on the inside of this slab that even we weren't expecting. The Oregon black walnut is known for the amount of color it has. It's usually deeper and darker than Claro walnut, so with Claro you can get these bright, almost orange-like colors with striping that comes through them, but in the Oregon black walnut, it's more of a rich, brownish red color, and this particular slab was one of the darkest examples that we had ever seen. A bonus with this piece of wood is that it had curly figuring going all the way down the entire edge of the slab. This table, in my opinion, is a classic Black Forest table and one of our favorite types of pieces to build. Our client specifically wanted a piece of wood that was going to cover most of the entire area of their table and something that had imperfections that we could then utilize the resin to fill in and expose those natural features. So with the size of the table, it ended up utilizing nearly the entire width of the piece, but we did have a little bit extra that we could cut off either end. We chose to cut off the end that had more solid wood so that we could feature that little branch section on one of the ends of the table. You might have noticed when we're cutting the ends of these slabs off that not only is there the red Oregon walnut, but there's some green stripes that go through, and sometimes that can be a sign of trapped moisture in the slab, so we did get a little bit worried initially when we were cutting these up.
Okay.
It's fine?
6, yeah, we're good.
Okay, we're good.
What about on a little white streak?
Maybe it's just the way you cut it. It just burnt weird.
Maybe. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, even the green is dry.
6 on the green. Sweet. That is
Killer wood.
It's insane,
fucking
hey?
pretty.
This table's gonna be good. It does look wet there, though. I see that, but I think we're fine. Oh, really?
So I don't know if we want to fill that with like actual black resin, because if we
Fingers
fill
push
it, yeah. you guys
Okay, we're
push it.
pushing in.
Yep.
Okay, we got like an inch over here.
1, 2, 3. Oh,
You still have space, so kind of have to knock that way. There we go. Fit perfectly.
nice.
Fantastic.
Very, very nice.
Did you?
Makes me happy.
Oh yeah, you cut this. I filled that.
I did all this so
Fork
far.
right there.
That'll be the intro there. Haha,
Our
fit
table ended up
perfectly.
being too small.
The only
Yeah.
thing that can wreck this. What color is the resin?
Just tinted black.
Okay, we're good.
Yeah, we're good.
Be like
Honestly, I kind of miss manganello
sky,
blue.
sky
Yeah.
blue
I
or
miss
something.
manganello blue. I really like that color.
We did a lot of it there. We had a big
Dark
screen.
Oh my god, that
Yeah.
was like all we did for a year. It
Yeah.
felt like.
Yeah.
This slab's gonna look so crazy though.
Yeah. I like when we get the like the greens, the dark
Yeah.
foresty greens.
Yeah, like that Olga, the Maple Girl.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow, it's nice.
The GL green, I think, is a
Yeah.
consensus favorite color.
Yeah.
That's it. Yippee!
Can you say that to the camera?
To point a lot of cameras at us.
Opaque black.
He doesn't help you with that at all, does he? So here we are in the resin room. We're starting with 4 buckets going in here. It's gonna be 15 drops of this Color Effects black dye. And then from there, we're gonna top it up more if we need more.
While this isn't our largest pour ever, it is the type of pour that can be quite susceptible to bubbles, specifically because of that decayed area that I mentioned earlier that's in the middle of the slab. Decayed sections of wood will tend to be quite a bit softer than the rest of the slab, and if you don't do a good job slowing down the cure of your resin, there's a very high chance that you can get some bubbles trapped in there. So in order to pull this off successfully, we're using our Black Forest Deep resin, which on its own has a very slow cure, but then we're cooling our room with air conditioners and using a liquid cooled table to even farther extend the amount of time that this resin will remain liquid before it cures. Our client opted to go with a tinted black resin for this table because it's going to tie in perfectly to the X space that you're going to see us build in a little bit. We personally really love this color because it doesn't clash or contrast with any of the elements of the wood, but it still gives enough transparency for our customer to be able to look into the resin and see the natural edges of this piece.
Are there men changing in here? Whoops.
We're gonna cast to the maple bench. It's kind of rotted.
You gotta come. The cart's gotta come our way.
After curing for 7 days in the form, we can then get the table lifted downstairs and take off that excess layer of resin that we leave for the pour. I feel like I've explained this so many times, but we still always get comments asking, why we waste this resin for our pouring process and why we don't just pour flush with the surface. And it's so that we can fill in more of the cracks and voids in that initial pour than if we hadn't have done this. And in this case, with those decayed sections, it's quite helpful because not only are we going to be able to get resin to soak into the edges, but also the top, which helps to harden those softer areas of the wood as well. Once we've got it initially flattened on the CNC machine and taken off the bulk of that resin, then it's over to our SCM planer sander machine to get that nice finished sanded surface on there before we move forward with the final sanding with our orbital sander. After we're done on the SCM, then we can get the piece cut down to its final size. So we're taking off that little bit of extra resin from the pour just to clean up any of the areas where our mold wasn't perfectly straight or where the tape left that textured surface. And we're also exposing the wooden edges. We always try when we're laying out our tables to have as many transition points between wood and epoxy because I just think it makes for a more interesting piece. So we did slightly angle this slab so that branch at the end that I mentioned earlier would reach all the way to the outside edge so you can see it when looking from the side of the table.
Down. 1, 2, 3, knockout.
Like Brad the Woodman says, every good carpenter has a sharp pencil. On our next video, we're building a table for Mr. Beast. So make sure.
Once Randy's done his process on this table, it's upstairs into the finishing area so we can get that finished product ready. We're going to be utilizing 3 different products to finish this table. The first coat consists of our Black Forest furniture oil, and this is mostly to seal the wood and bring out the maximum amount of color in the grain. As you guys have seen in some of our previous videos, we've started using a UV cure finish, which you're going to see us use on the next couple of coats, but it doesn't quite bring as much color out as the furniture oil does, so that's why we like to do this first coat initially. So after this is applied, we're going to allow it to cure for 24 hours, and we are using the catalyst on this initial coat as well, so that it can set up right away, and then we can come back and do the UV coat. The next day, John is going to go ahead and get this table completely finished. So funny enough, he's taking his cabinet, making it sate right now, and he did this process before school, so he had a very limited amount of time to actually get this table completed. So he had 3 coats of LED oil he wanted to put on, and then a coat of our ceramic over top to finish the table off. The first coat goes on exactly the same as the coat of furniture oil would, and then the following coats, again, are exactly the same as furniture oil, the only difference being the process in between coats. So to determine the sheen you get on your table, you can sand to whatever grit you like in between coats. We'll typically go to like an 800 grit after the first coat and then a 2000 grit after the second coat if we want to get a really, really nice sheen out of the piece. Each of these coats cures instantly with exposure to that UV light, so you can begin working on that next coat right away without having to wait around for any sort of cure times. The other nice advantage this brings that you're going to get to see in a minute is there's no wait time anymore for the ceramic coating. Our furniture oil on its own requires at least 1 week to be fully cured before you can put any other type of finish over top of it, whereas this finish is going to cure instantly with that light and there is no sort of waiting. We have officially released this to the public as well, so you can find it on our website where we're selling the oil and the lights to cure this product. What you're seeing John use right now is the big version of the light, but we also sell a smaller version for about 1/3 of the price, which is much more suitable if you have a home workshop. Once the 3rd coat of the UV finish is cured, we can then come along and apply our ceramic coating. So not only is this going to give an additional level of protection to the piece, but it's also going to bump up the color and contrast out of the wood and increase the clarity on the epoxy. You're going to get a hydrophobic surface when you're using our ceramic coating, which means any liquid spills that might happen are going to beat up right away and be much easier to clean. If you do want to try any of these products and you happen to be watching around the time it's posted, we do have our May Markdown Sale going on right now, where all Black Forest products are 10% off. So you can go check that out in the link in the description and save some money on these finishing products.
How long did that take you?
Hour 40. Get 3 coats and a coat of ceramic.
Now that we've got the tabletop finished off, John is going to head into our retail store and pick out some ash to make the base for this table, which also happens to be 25% off right now for our May Markdown Sale. So he's trying to find nice, clean, and consistent boards. Most of all, though, he's looking for straight material to build this base from. We are going to be staining it black, so if there is any sort of imperfections on these boards, a lot of that is going to end up getting covered by the stain. But if they're not true and straight, we're going to struggle to get the thickness we need to put our joinery together. So we have built so many bases like this at this point that we have the process down to a T. All of the joinery is cut using our CNC machine, and it even goes and drills all the dowel holes we need. So once one of these components comes off, we can then assemble it quite easily without a lot of extra work. There is a few cuts that we have to make because of the limitations of our machine, but it really helps expedite this process for us. Or, in other words, we're cheating. We like to do a lot of our sanding work before everything goes together. And for this base, we're taking it up to 180 grit, a little bit lower than we would take one of our tables. And that's because we want to get the stain to be able to have maximum penetration and have a completely even black finish. Once our sanding work is done, we can then begin the glue up process for this. So like I mentioned, the CNC has already drilled out all of our dowel holes that we need. And then for an adhesive, we're using Titebond 3, which technically is an exterior rated glue, but we use it on nearly all of our projects just for that peace of mind to ensure that none of these joints are ever going to have any issues in the future. To put together one of these X bases, it's a 2-stage process. So first we have to do the glue up on these smaller X's, and then once they're cured, we can cut off that tang and then put together the large X before we sandwich those smaller X's around to form the entire finished base. This joinery here is always incredibly satisfying. It's essentially just one big half lap, and then the recess that you're seeing on the top and sides is where those smaller X's are going to wrap around.
Holes.
Yeah, that's what you want.
I can't wait for Haley to see this.
Putting glue on things.
That's weird. Somebody would never take the brush out of our hand to prevent us from learning how things are glued.
What are you talking about?
You're crazy.
Now that those 2 initial glue ups are done, we can go ahead and assemble this entire finished base. So we don't just butt into the edge, which I've seen a couple other similar bases online before where you just domino into the side, which would probably work, but we go right over top on either side of that larger X, which again is probably somewhat overkill because the Titebond 3 on its own likely would be strong enough to support this table. But doing it this way ensures that this base is absolutely never going to come apart. We did a table 3 or 4 months ago now that weighed over 1,500 pounds. It was the 4-inch thick maple burl table that we delivered to the Pacific Palisades, and it had one of these X bases and it held it up with no issues. So we're always experimenting with products that we use to work on our pieces, and in the past you've seen us use the General Finishes black wood stain to get that nice black stained finish on our X bases, but there was issues sometimes with getting a little bit of blotchiness if you didn't apply it absolutely perfectly. So in trying to find a way to make this process easier, we've been using some India ink recently and had really good results. It's not something we sell yet. We might look into it in the future, but it's given us really consistent black finishes that are easy to replicate. After we apply the India ink, we also put on a couple coats of our UV cure finish, and then we can start mounting the steel plates that are going to fix this base to the underside of the table. Like I mentioned earlier, that's what the recesses are for on the underside of the table, and it just allows everything to sit perfectly flush. I mean, I doubt our clients are going to spend that much time underneath their dining table, and maybe no one but their dog will notice this, but it's a detail that we appreciate. So to fix those plates to the base, we're just screwing them in with regular wood screws in a countersunk hole. But to fix the base to the underside of the table, we're going to go with a different method. To attach the base, we like to use threaded inserts. So it's just a small metal insert that installs to the underside of the table and then lines up with one of the slotted holes that we have in our plates. The reasoning for the slotted holes on our plates is so that these pieces can expand and contract over their life. Even kiln-dried hardwood expands about 1/8 of an inch per foot seasonally. So when it's really dry, if you have a table like this that's 4 feet wide, it can change its size about 1/2 inch over the course of any given year. Once our threaded inserts are installed, we then like to add a piece of felt to the top side of our bases. Again, it's just one of those details that no one really sees and looks quite nice, but it also simplifies the installation process so that either us or our clients can just set the piece on top without having to worry about scratching the underside of the table.
And I'm ready.
One.
Towards Curtis a little more. Alright, come down. You guys come down. Nice and easy. I'm lined up here.
Yeah,
You're good. That is how it's done, my friends. Oh, Gary.
Wait, do you need anything else?
Nope. The red is amazing. Honestly, I hope we buy more slabs from these guys because, you know, it's Oregon walnut.
Right.
This is so nice. I think this is the greatest wood ever. It's fantastic. Oregon black walnut. There's like tons of this red grain. Then you got some dark stripes here. You got white stripes. It's amazing. It's great. It's fantastic.
Thank you, Garrett.
You're welcome. Oh, there's a big dust spot in there. Why didn't you tell me that? This is why I don't watch the videos anymore, because I know there's way more of me talking than I would like. Oh no, I'm still talking.
Unfortunately, this isn't one of the tables that we got to go deliver as our client just wanted it shipped to their home. I think they have a construction crew on site right now that's going to set it up for them. So if we do ever end up getting any photos, we'll be sure to post them on our channel. But here is a look at the finished product. To recap, this is Oregon black walnut that we've paired with a tinted black resin, finished off with our Black Forest furniture oil, UV cure finish, and ceramic coating. The base is our signature Black and Ash X base that we also used our UV cure oil to finish, and we stained it using India ink. We would absolutely love to hear your thoughts on this piece in the comments below. As you could hear from the reaction of our team, this is one of our favorite pieces that we've had come out of our shop in a while, simply because of the gorgeous wood that was in this tabletop.
We should just cut a piece of lumber out of that and take it home. You know?
I agree. We should chop it up.
Like the entire time I was looking at this, I was like, I think I need something for the...
That looks like something I should take home. Give her a table with a gun stock shape cut out of one side and a chunk of resin taken out of it.